Welcome to Last Week in Warframe, a series where I keep you updated on the past week of Warframe by compiling all news, announcements, and general posts by the developers from the forums, Reddit, Twitter, and even their live stream. Timestamps to each topic, as well as their sources, are in the description, so without further ado, let's go over these announcements and news from the 1st of January to the 26th. Starting with the first Devstream of 2020, we have Devstream 136. Now, there's no whiteboard roadmap for 2020, and Rebecca said that they should finish the 2019 whiteboard before making another. Now, DE also created a floof to raise awareness for the Aussie bushfires, and that was available for players who logged into the game during a period of time that I don't know about. Now, in December, Steve released a survey about Warframe in 2019 for the players to answer. The team addressed the survey's data and showcased that data to us. The information is up on your screen with each question I go through. The first question was, overall, how was your experience with Warframe in 2019? There had been 27,886 responses, 30.2% or 8,432 people rated it an 8, 22.5% or 6,280 people said 7, 14.5% or 4,036 people said it was a 9, and 9.6% or 2,673 people said it was a 6. Steve said the following while this data was on screen, so I'll play that for you now.
I think we'll probably be listening to our audience this year as well. So we'll probably still read their feedback regardless of your platform or when you engage in the content. I mean, we did this, but it's not like polls are closed in terms of telling us how you feel about the content and what you want to do, what you want to see in the game.
So that was the sort of the general 2019 version, because all things considered, 2020 was where the survey was edging toward,
Well, yeah, it's giving us at least some audience direction in terms of what they would like to see. Obviously, we have our own feelings and our own ratings about some of our our shortcomings and the things that we had hoped would work out better or work out faster. I think I did see in chat someone saying, can 2020 be the year where we fix everything? And I do know that there is a big component to that this year. And I think, we were trying to be very clear about what Empyrean was in terms of the first faction and phasing it into the game. And I think that some people might have felt that Liches and Squad Link ideally would have been tied up into those things and more factions would have come at one time. We wanted that as much as you guys did, but the reality is this some things don't work out. The reality is if we intertwine systems too tightly, then if one slips, they all do, and on and on and on. And so we did have our share of difficulties and a lot of internal angst about getting this out to you guys in the form that it finally took. But this is now taking the foundation and some of the interesting things that we solved and expanding it and tying it together. I know what I'd like to see is, as new game modes come in for Empyrean and new ways to play it, that maybe the balance of on foot and spaces may be inverted, right? So that you're kind of flying a bit and then you're on a ship and that's kind of where the meat of the mission is. So there's a lot of really interesting things that we're going to be doing this year. To connect those things, like I was sort of waving my hands at TennoCon saying those were our intentions. But TennoCon is a demo. It's not shippable. We show you the build, but the system depth or the avionics, those things, they come online later and they succeed, or they do well, or they do poorly, and we have to adjust and change. So, I mean, I'm very proud of the team. If you had played Railjack a few weeks before he shipped, or even in some of the demos that we did here, I think a lot of people in chat, you guys are smart, and you thought, ooh, like this is rough, or there's a lot of bugs, or like this can't ship this year because it looks a little shaky, and it was. I think institutionally, this is a weird thing to say, but I think institutionally we needed to ship and really get it out there and establish it and put it in front of the audience and have them, maybe not test it for us, but I think we needed to really tear off the Band-Aid and be decisive and get it out there despite our reservations. So,
That was a very 2013 Warframe move to ship it. You know,
it was,
and that's
but
kind of
it kept dragging on, and I think the thing that maybe DE isn't great at is spending 2 years doing something, because it kind of feels like we lose our way, and so that's kind of part of 2020 is
We shall use
trying to
use the survey to find our way.
leapfrog onto successes.
Generally speaking, which of the following is your favourite thing about Warframe? With 27,891 responses, 44.8% said action and combat, 28.8% said art style and setting, 24.1% said customization depth, and a smidge of people said social features. Which 2019 edition did you enjoy the most? With 27,951 responses, 34.3% said Empyrean, 22.3% said Melee Reworks, 13.1% said New Warframes, 11.5% said Nightwave, and it goes down from there with Kuvalich's following Nightwave. Which 2019 Warframe edition did you enjoy the least? With 27,746 responses, 39.1% said Kuvalich's, 17.4% said Empyrean, 12.8% said Other, 9.9% said New Warframes, and it continues down from there with new cosmetics, melee reworks, new boss fights, Nightwave, and primes. Which do you feel most negatively impacts your Warframe experience? With 27,922 responses, 42.2% said repetition and grind, 18.5% said technical and software bugs, 9.8% said update pace, 9.7% said lack of difficulty, 9.3% said other, and downwards it goes from tutorial absence, NA, and too much difficulty. What is your preferred amount of time to play Warframe? With 27,921 responses, 72.1% said once a day, 24.3% said once a week, then once a month, and then once a year. Which of the following unreleased items are you most interested in? With 27,959 responses, the new wall was at top with 38.3%, Deviri Paradox followed 33.3%, Railjack expansion had 16.5%, and it goes down with the Lich expansion, Other, and Nightwave Series 3. How much do you value gear balance? With 27,961 responses, 30.6% or 8,567 people answered with 3 out of 5, 29.7% or 8,313 people said 4, 24.6% or 6,888 people said 5, 10.1% or 2,816 people said 2, and then 4.9% or 1,377 people said 1. How much do you value build customization? With 27,966 responses, 50.8% or 14,213 people entered 5 out of 5, 34.1% or 9,535 said 4, 12.7% or 3,547 people said 3, 1.8% or 516 people said 2, and 0.6% or 155 people said 1. How much do you value cooperative missions? There had been 27,958 responses, 27.8% or 7,773 people voting 5 out of 5, 26.5% or 7,404 people voting 3, 25.8% or 7,207 people voting 4, 12.2% or 3,398 people voting 2, and 7.8% or 2,176 people voting 1 out of 5. How much do you value cosmetic customization? With 27,980 responses, 39.8% or 11,145 people said 5 out of 5, 32.5% or 9,101 people said 4, 19.2% or 5,359 people said 3, 6.2% or 1,733 people said 2, and lastly 2.3% or 642 people said 1 out of 5. How much do you value difficult content? With 27,965 responses, 33.8% or 9,447 people voted 4 out of 5. 27.6% or 7,711 people said 5 out of 5. 27.1% or 7,581 people said 3 out of 5. 8.2% or 2,306 people said 2 out of 5. And 3.3% or 920 people said 1 out of 5. In regards to these stats, Scott commented the following.
With the amount of comments we have about difficulty, this one surprised me. I thought it would be way higher, but it's not. I thought we would see that.
I think it speaks to the some people use Warframe as like a just chill out and play type game, where you can kind of get in the trance and in the vibe and just kind of roll with playing a bunch of missions and kind of relax. It's not supposed to be stressful for some people, or they don't want it to be stressful.
Right.
So I think speaks to that a bit.
Now the last question was, how much do you value lore and story? With 27,981 responses, 58.9% or 16,483 people said 5 out of 5. 29.7% or 8,314 people said 4 out of 5. 8.3% or 2,336 people said 3 out of 5. 1.9% or 543 people said 2. And 1.1% or 305 people said 1 out of 5. There was a write-in section at the end of the survey limited to 1 swear word, and of the rough 25,000 people that wrote a comment, DE created a word cloud to show the frequency of words used, which is up on your screen. Prex cards have been made for both Ember and Vauban. In response to players asking for an apology for the bugs and the rough launch of Empyrean, Steve said the following, on top of discussing cross-save and how far out that is, where it is not even close to release.
Yeah, and I think just scanning chat, obviously, it feels like a few people, all caps, want an apology for bugs that they had or whatever. And so, yeah, we always are sorry for that. And sometimes when we follow up a hotfix with another hotfix, we're embarrassed, and we don't want to put you through that.
We did 4 yesterday.
And that's not a good feeling for us, as it is not for you. But I don't know if we're going to apologize for taking big risks and trying to creatively challenge ourselves. That's kind of part of the Warframe journey. Should we do better? Absolutely. And that's kind of our direction for this year. Fixing all the bugs I see come up, and absolutely. That's been the high rate of change this year already.
Absolutely.
Is towards fixing bugs. And cross-save is another one I see come up in chat, and it's the blanket answer. We have a programmer that's very slowly, unfortunately, working on it, and it is something we know, we hear you, that you want it. We are a very rapidly changing game. We just put Empyrean onto Railjack. It changes dramatically the structure of the game and the structure of the accounts.
What do you call it? We turduckened the game?
We turduckened the game.
Yes.
And so this is why cross-save for Warframe is going to be kind of a bit bigger of a challenge for us. But we want to try, and I don't want to make any promises. And I know technically our technical staff are very, internally conflicted about the return on investment for that, and would it be better to add new features than to work on cross-save? But we hear you, and we have been investigating it.
The next series of Nightwave is titled Glassmaker. On top of the upcoming Corpus ship remaster, DE are planning to introduce new units, but it is unknown if they'll be a part of that remaster on launch, as they were shown via concept art. As shown on screen, that's the concept art. There are 4 units. The second will be a civilian-like unit that runs from the player, according to the stream. In this stream, Steve confirmed that it is in fact a Corpus ship remaster for the oldest tile set in the game, on top of saying they're making capital ships and new fighters workable for the Corpus Empyrean. The remaster will feature lore on the origins of the Corpus and more, but it's unknown when it's releasing as of Devstream 136. Concept art and highlight images were shown for an updated look at the Void Sabotage field bosses Sprague and Ven'kra, and according to the team, it's mainly visual, but new loot may be added to them. The team also commented on Kuvaliches again. Rebecca stated that as of the stream, there are over 1.2 million liches. Scott did expand on his plans for the Kuvaliches as of Devstream 136, but they have since gone live, so I will just leave a link to that section in the description of the video if you want to watch it. They finally showed the video of Grendel eating Lephantis during his development. They showed off concept art for an infested environment that's massive. The one on screen is a space-scale mass that holds microplanets of infested mass. The Warframe crash handler is being updated with a clearer flow and guidance as shown. In-game looks of Ivaro Deluxe were shown, but that has since released as well, as of update 27.1. They showed the mod screen for a lull augment for Baruch, but once again that has gone live as of update 27.1. A new mower is coming for companions through Fortuna with a new emotion titled Tenacious. Concept art was shown for the upcoming tech frame Odalisk, taken from the Devstream 136 overview. Her first ability throws a fan of 3 grenades with shrapnel clouds that protect and crowd control. Holding the Cast has a defensive capability where it creates an energy trench that will give you a protective bubble when approached. Her second ability will drop a big gun in front of you that shoots in front of it for a set duration and disappears. It does area of effect damage, and the damage increases with each enemy you hit. The third ability puts down a dispatcher that creates health orbs and ammo and energy orbs. The fourth ability places down a temporal anchor of your energy, health, and ammo pool. Shooting, taking damage, casting abilities, and more can be done while it is active, and when the ability ends, you'll return to your initial state when it was activated with the original accounts for each. Odalisk's passive, as of Devstream 136, is that every fourth ability gets 100% extra power strength. But all of that is in its early stages. Clan sigils will be released at some point. Rebecca showed 3 states from the dev build, but it was a short mention and showcase of the feature. The previously mentioned idea of making Archwing modular is being worked on, with a complete rework of the Archwing abilities focused towards Railjack content, but it is in very early stages. Lastly, for 136, Steve, Rebecca, and mostly Scott talked about the damage system with enemy armor and changes they are working out, and that follows.
And then a lot of questions about armor as well.
Yeah, we're playing with different armor on Dev right now.
This is the yearly thing.
This is
we start our year with the hardest.
Hey, we should rework the damage system.
Yeah.
Let's try in January.
Yeah,
every year.
Every year.
So we have an S-curve armor system.
Yep. So
where instead of going,
we probably talked about this last year,
and then kind of
as
goes, and then goes
so
like that.
We have put it back in instead of exponentially climbing into the sky forever.
It tapers out.
It climbs for a period of, or a section of levels. So currently it's at about the 75, 80-ish level that it will exponentially climb till.
Okay.
And then it starts to level out and plateau. It doesn't stop climbing, but it is less crazy. Some of the early numbers I was sending you just before the dev stream.
Yes.
I think the real ones you see is when you start getting to like the really high level, when you start going into the 150 range and stuff, you start to see a big difference in.
So level 150 Lancer went from 3,200 to 1,400, so halved effectively, more than halved. And then level 100 Bombard went from 7,300 to 5,800 armor.
Yeah.
So we only got those stats just before the stream, so we'll have more to share after. But yeah, it'll.
So I think this is looking at where we want that curve to adjust on the enemies, when we want that to actually take effect and not effect is something that we're playing with. What that actually looks like in past the exponential climb is something we're playing with. I think it also needs to come with potentially a damage buff on the enemies as well.
As they rank up.
That curve of their damage ramp up needs to change, I think, to kind of compensate. So moving the game, again, this sounds very deja vu, or we've
tried this a million times.
A million, yep.
But
less bullet sponge, more lethality.
Yeah, so I think as they climb in range, we'll try to make them a little bit more deadly. Hopefully not getting down the one-shot route.
The one-shot is the other side of that,
Yeah, but having another look at some of the systemic stuff that has been plaguing us for years.
I know Pablo was, when we were talking about 2020, a big one on yours was difficult content and trying to make things that are legitimately challenging. That is part of the kind of more meta things of the game, and it's sort of a part of a process of having a game where we don't reset for a sequel. And so that creates a lot of challenges for long-term players who thankfully have stuck with us or have returned and want to see more challenge, depending on where they voted on my little poll. So this is it's kind of part of this is to make what he's saying is to make that a bit more predictable, but also looking at ways of making more challenging content and challenging content that you can kind of opt into, because we know that it's not there's not one perfect spaghetti sauce.
Now, after that dev stream, the community team and the devs celebrated hitting 1 million followers on Twitch with a 2.5-hour stream. In the middle of this stream, they had essentially a dev stream with the sound team, and I'll leave that timestamped in the description if you want to listen to it, because I think the sound team's pretty awesome. Moving on, DE released 4 hotfixes since they returned to their offices in early January. These hotfixes contained a large number of both railjack changes and fixes. Some of these changes came to reactors, enemy fighters' armor, our weapons, wreckage ranks, accessibility for the anomaly ephemera, and capture scenes, and a whole lot more. Now, I have released a video that compiles all that information from the 4 hotfixes into one place. if you do wish to catch up. Those hotfixes, just to be clear, were 27.0.9, 0.10, 0.11, and 0.12. Through a developer workshop, DE Pablo also broke down why DE creates the UI like they do. The dev workshop is part 1 and has its own video for time saving sake, a card of which is up on your screen that will take you straight to it, as well as a link in the description if you want to know about it. It was literally uploaded like 12 hours ago. Nintendo Switch's Empyrean update launched on the 15th of January, and for the information about Empyrean's content for those users, I have recently uploaded a patch note video covering Empyrean, so if you want to watch that or read the patch notes, links are in the description as mentioned at the start of the video and a couple times now. Operation Plaguestar had returned while I was away, and that was on the 27th of January. Do apologize for no coverage and notice about that, but it did return. Now to Reddit. Rebecca responded to a post that stated DE, 50 endo is not a mission reward, and she replied to specifically the following sentence. It's frustrating, and I don't see why those low rewards are still in the loot tables, and as far as I know, it's not only spy missions, these rewards are everywhere. Rebecca's response was, don't disagree on this, especially for late game players going back to early game missions because of where things drop. And she asks, in 2020 Warframe, what is a mission reward for those everyday star chart missions? If you want to chime in, a direct link is in the description. Again on Reddit, Rebecca responded to a thread about hold to heavy attack with melees and the option to disable it from being hold to melee. Rebecca said that it will be gone in the next hotfix, but later that changed and was released in update 27.1, which is now live on all platforms. She also clearly stated that there will not be a toggle, which wasn't received well if the comments and replies as well as the point system is anything to go by. Now, as for developer Twitter posts, we had the animator for Wisp, Elise Geimer, I believe that's how you say it, showing off prior to a previous hotfix that Wisp will float when meleeing and other actions, and she shared that this was a labor of love for those that had been requesting it since her launch. The deconstructing podcast that DE did is on hiatus, and DE George shared progress on the DE Sound Studio renovations with the on-screen 3 images and the caption. Almost ready to start DE Sound Studio renovations. A couple of pics of what the room looks like currently and a pic of what it will look like when it's done. And lastly, to end the episode, DE George shared a work-in-progress video on a new Shorezen that was added in update 27.1.
I hear some guitar. I wonder what's going on. Hey guys.
Hey George.
What are you guys working on?
Recording some guitar for new Shorezen.
Really?
New Shorezen sound.
Jeff the Guitar Master. Nice, nice. Can you show us a bit of what it sounded like in game?
Sure.
Nice. All right. Well, coming soon.
There it is.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Anyway, that does conclude this episode of Last Week in Warframe. If you found the video informative, make sure to leave a like. If you think I can improve upon the series in any way, shape or form, make sure to leave it in the comments section down below. If you want the channel glyph, there are 5 codes per platform up on the screen right now. Go put them into the promo code section of the Warframe website and you'll get the glyph code. If someone has already redeemed it, you won't be able to redeem the code and you'll have to wait for another video to get the code. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next Last Week in Warframe episode, which will recap a pretty short week for Warframe. Thanks for watching, bye.